Hello, my name is Garrett, and welcome to the fourth episode where I'm making this pneumatic engraver. In this episode, I'll be making the graver collets. Graver is just another name for the chisels that actually do the cutting action for the engraving. I decided to make this in a two-part construction with a collet body and a collet collar. I'm not very good at machining, so instead of trying to turn this in one piece, I decided to use the tolerances of off-the-shelf stock to do all the hard work for me. I will be working on the graver bodies first. I will start out by drilling this 3.4mm hole which the graver will be held inside of. I'm using W1 steel for the graver body. It is a cheap steel that has a tight tolerance on the diameter and is easy to heat treat. I cleaned up the end of the bar to get rid of the bandsaw finish. Using a center drill, I start off the hole and then switch to a 3.4mm drill to finish it out. To make sure that I don't go too deep, I made another drill stop similar to the ones that I've been using previously. However, instead of clamping this one in place, I just glued it to the drill bit itself. These drill bits are cheap, so I don't mind trashing one or dedicating one to just drilling out collet bodies. With the center hole drilled, I can now move into turning this groove. An O-ring will be put in this groove later to retain the collet in the barrel. The interference here between the O-ring and the barrel will give just enough friction that the collet can still be taken in and out easily, but won't just fall out of the barrel. I'm going to be using a 40 thousandths thick grooving tool to cut this groove. This one is thin enough that I can't just touch it off by feel, so I use an otoscope and visually check when the grooving tool has contacted the face of the collet body. With that tool touched off, I can move down to where the groove will be. The groove will be made in two passes to make sure that the width is the right size. I don't part it off all the way because the extra steel allows for more leverage as I'm cleaning up the burrs with the Scotch-Brite wheel, which I do off screen. I can now do a test fit with the O-ring in place. As you can see, the O-ring gives just enough friction so that I can easily put the collet into the barrel, but it won't fall out on its own. This groove was really hard to make, much harder than I thought it would be. There was quite a bit of trial, error, and practice until I found out the dimensions to machine in order to get the fitment I wanted. Since I'm happy with the groove, I can now cut the body off the excess material with the bandsaw before loading it into the cordless drill to clean up the end with the belt sander, removing the nub as well as putting a very slight dome on the striking surface. I decided to heat treat the striking surface, that way it should be able to hold up to the repetitive hammering it will see in its lifetime. The last thing I want to do is for the surface here to mushroom out and rivet itself into the barrel. I'm going to hold the body in some tweezers and use a handheld torch to heat up the end until it's cherry red before quenching it in water. This leaves an oxidized surface finish, which I don't like, so I put it back in the drill and just hit it on the Scotch-Brite wheel to clean it up. Right now it is very hard and brittle and won't hold up to hammering along without cracking. I once again hold the body in some tweezers and using a small butane torch I will heat up the body until it is a dark straw color. This gives the graver some toughness. It will not deform from the hammering action, but it also is not hard enough it will crack like glass. With the graver body complete, I can now set it aside and start working on the graver collar. As you can see here, the collar starts off as just a simple ring. The inside will be drilled and reamed to 0.249 inches, which is 1/1000th less than the diameter of the body, allowing me to make a press fit connection between these two parts later. I very cleverly position my quick change tool post in the way of the shot here, but I'm simply cleaning up the end and turning down the diameter of the mild steel bar. This diameter isn't critical, I just want it to be about 10 to 20 thousandths smaller than the diameter of the barrel. With the profile turned, I can start drilling and rimming this hole in the center of the graver collet, starting out with a center drill and then switching to a 1/8 inch drill bit before coming in with a letter C drill in preparation for rimming. I hit the collar with some compressed air just to make sure that the reamer will make an accurate diameter and send the reamer on its way. I touch off the grooving tool in preparation for parting off the collar, but before I forget, I come in and chamfer the back side of the graver collet. This will give me a nice taper to help the press fit later. It also means that there will be a bit of a clearance for the square corner of the barrel here. Making these collets in two parts allows me to have this undercut at the connection point, meaning that I won't have to chamfer the opening of the barrel. With the chamfer made, I can now part off the collar with the grooving tool. Just a little bit of cleanup on some sandpaper, and the collar and the body are ready to be assembled. I will use my arbor press to assemble these two parts. The ring goes onto the bottom of the press, and I carefully set the body into the chamfer of the collar in preparation for pressing. This went surprisingly well. I was worried that this was going to be a much more difficult operation to carry out. With the body and collar assembled, I am now going to move over to the mill to drill and tap the 632 hole. A set screw will go in this hole that will lock the graver into the collet. Originally I designed this with just one set screw hole, but I decided to make this a through hole because it wouldn't take much extra effort, and then if I damage the threads in one hole, I still have another threaded hole I can use instead of having to make a whole new collet. I will hold the collet in the 5C collet block for the drilling and milling operations. A few good whacks to make sure that it's seated down on the parallels, and I can touch off the side of the collet before swapping out my edge finder for the drill chuck. I did forget to touch off the end of the collar, so to save time I just used my drill chuck to hold the edge finder and touch off the face. Now that I have my X and Y location picked up, I will start the hole with a center drill and then come in with a number 36 drill before tapping the hole with a 632 tap. The next feature I'm going to machine is the slot here. This aligns with the locating nub on the barrel of the graver so that the collet will always be in the same orientation. I made this perpendicular with the through hole, so to set up the collet for this operation, I just have to rotate the collet block 90 degrees. Seriously, these 5C collet blocks makes fixture changes like this so easy. Using a 1/8 inch end mill, I'm going to machine the slot. I designed this so that the locating nub was a little bit wider than 1/8 of an inch. This allows me to carefully make the slot wider, checking with the barrel to make sure that the slot is the right width. Everything is looking really good, and I am now ready to do another test fit to see how the collet fits into the barrel. That fit up is far better than I thought it would be. There is almost no play, and the friction between the O-ring and the barrel is perfect. The last feature that needs to be machined is the chamfer on the end of the collet. This will make it more comfortable to hold while engraving. Since this isn't a critical feature, I just throw the collet into the lathe, and using the compound slide, I will gently turn that chamfer. I do have a set screw in the hole so that there isn't a chance of the graver collar rotating on the body during this operation, making the through holes no longer line up. Just like that, the collet is done. I decided to make 2 of them, which I think is a good enough starting point for now. I can always make more later if I decide I need more. I'm extremely happy with how these collets turned out, and I can't quite believe how well both of these fit into the barrel of the graver. Having all these different parts come together so well is just the best feeling ever. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next episode.